Who do I have here today?
Well, this is Chef Kevin, even though he doesn't like to be called chef.
Chef Kevin, Don Burns,
Nice to
But
meet
he's
you.
an actual, real
an
chef.
actual chef.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many.
trained, worked under some good chefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, real deal. So now he's like pitmaster / chef.
Fantastic. And you guys are with Cultivated Pig, right?
Yeah, that's where we
Yeah.
incubate out of.
Out of Catapult. When did you guys start? Don't mind me asking.
A couple of years ago.
About 2 years ago, yeah.
Did you guys do something before that?
Work-wise?
Yeah.
So that's a loaded question.
Yeah, that's a
I was in the industry for about 15 years. Worked my way up through a luxury hotel chain. And then I was wanting to do my own thing for a while, actually a long time. Never really built up the courage to do it. We actually started out together as a competition barbecue team. That's where we came up with the name Cultivated Pig when we were doing the competitions. And then we just wasn't really our style. We're from Texas, so everything is about the meat. Like, just smoke the meat, leave it alone. Actually in Texas, a lot of places, they just do salt and pepper on their rubs, whereas we don't. That's why we call ourselves Texas inspired. But we didn't really click well in that group, and there's nothing wrong with that style of barbecue. It's just not what we do. We're used to doing more Texas style, where it's just about the meat and not sauces or anything like that. So flash forward to COVID, and I was basically furloughed from my job for about 9 months. And it put a lot of things in perspective for me. Kind of the courage to, okay, I'm gonna do this now. So when I decided to do this, I went to Jimmy again and said, hey, this is what I wanna do. I wanna start a business and pop up, basically selling from a 16-foot mobile smoker. I don't wanna do a food truck, don't want that, because the end goal is to have a brick and mortar. But he was on board, and then we started, actually one of our first locations, we popped up on 98 and Lime. It was the corner of a busy intersection, and just started selling barbecue. And then we got into the yard on Mass, and then it just kicked off where we started doing breweries, and then we get into festivals and stuff like that. But we actually started on the side of the road. So my industry, or my background, is in the food and beverage industry, whereas his is not. I'll let him talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
mine's more business and technology. But yeah, I mean, I guess over 25 years ago, I started a software company when he and I both lived in Midland, Texas, and he moved off first to go to culinary school in Dallas, and then Four Seasons hired him right out of school. So I had started a software company and then shut it down before I left Midland. Started working for an oil and gas accounting firm and wrote software for them. And then they had a database system for a certain healthcare group that they needed to get finished. And so they, offered me a job, and I was like, hey, why not leave the country of Texas? Because it kind of is, like a lot of people don't really leave, outside of the border much. And I mean to other states. Yeah, so then kind of went from that to desert to beaches, and after a year of that, actually I finished the project in about 6 months, and then since we really we were going to take like a year to do it, and then I got promoted and ended up becoming a director and that kind of thing, and then I basically kind of put myself out of a job because my goal was to try to make things so efficient that we didn't have to have so much overhead.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and then after all that, decided I would. So I was self-taught for the most part with the programming and that whole technical field, and I thought, well, why not get better business skills and go back to school for business, and yeah, went to UF, graduated top of class, and
Wow.
so the timing, I guess, kind of worked out. But I started another business that was addressing the last mile of delivery for perishables, so basically grocery delivery. For the most part, the industry, the way it was working, or actually kind of still is they're just trying to shift the margins. You know, you become so efficient at the delivery model that it actually becomes more expensive at the brick and mortar per transaction, because the transactions are less. So it's really just kind of shifting the margins from one model to the other. So everybody's just losing money to a certain degree. And so I thought I had some technical ideas that could solve that problem. And I think I might have been right, because Walmart patented it before I could.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
you should talk a little bit about, so unbeknownst to me, I don't know if it means I'm not a very good best friend, but he was going through a lot of, like, when I asked him to do the competition stuff, he was going through a lot of, like, mental things. And he was dealing with PTSD, like, I didn't know how bad it was. He was agoraphobic, like, he was really, he had to overcome a lot just to help me do those competitions.
Yeah.
And you should talk a little bit about that, because it seems like we overcome a lot on a daily basis. And not just mental, but physically, like we bootstrap everything, because we're small business owners and entrepreneurs, and we try to bootstrap everything and make it be the cheapest way, but you should talk a little bit about that.
From the country, you can't just go to the hardware store.
Yeah.
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 Oh, you are? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, at that point in my life, it's kind of, I don't know how you describe it, but it's like, I've heard it described like this before. It's like the scaffolding of your mind just gets blown apart, and what you think, there's a certain way that you live in life that, say it's like your identity, but it kind of is in a way. When some of that's, or all of that's uprooted, you kind of question a lot of that stuff. Some people go, oh, meaning of life, da da da. I don't know. It's the worst part is realizing that you have to accept that you live in a random world of unknowns, and that it's really addictive to try to come up with a way of thinking that makes you forget that, like there's always something that's taken care of, there's like a hidden force that's taking care of everything in front of you, and this is not the case, and I don't think anybody would really want that anyways. If that were the case, that would just kind of make human beings nothing more than pets for something. But anyhow, yeah, it was pretty bad. It was hard to leave the house for the better part of 2 years. I pretty much rarely really did. I don't even think I put up like 1,000 miles on a car over 2 years at that point. But yeah, I mean, his thing, it was important to him, and it just, naturally just became important to me.
That's
too.
fantastic.
So I was like, all right, we'll figure it out. And that's kind of how we started. I
That's
guess.
awesome. Yeah, the one thing I know for sure, my little Lakeland here in Denver, is the freaking loneliness. Dude, I'm the only one pushing this, and you get to the point where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no
Podcast?
freaking, the whole thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
Started out with a website of a directory, like a Lakeland phone book or something like that. I'm not a outgoing person naturally. For 20 years, I repaired a dishwasher, I came home, I raised my kids.
Mm-hmm.
This come along, and I have to bring out a personality that I have to develop as I'm going along.
You have to overcome.
Like, leave me alone, I'm in this world, But as I get in more and more, I'm seeing how lonely entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
Man. It really is.
It's tough.
It's not lonely in the sense that there's no people around. It's lonely in the fact that
Understanding.
people don't. Yeah, and that goes for family too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree 100%.
XYZ, results in ABC, and a lot of times you hear, oh, cool, but really, it's like, I'm not sure about this. Especially now because, you know, after the Industrial Revolution, kind of, that's what we did. You know, the idea of having an 8 to 5 and all that, that was not, this is recent. You know, we didn't have a work hour schedule like that when Jesus walked the earth, for
Yeah.
example. So it's kind of new to us, but in that structure, while it does organize, you know, resources, people and other resources, machines, all that kind of stuff, the negative part of it is that it can get you in such a box that the human factor kind of gets whittled away.
Yeah.
So then like, who do you go to when you're going like, God, I'm really nervous that this is gonna work out? You know, we're down to the last dollar. We're, you know, doubling down. We're investing in this because we, you know, believe, and that's what business really is all about. You get to a point where you're like, okay, and now you have to grow again. Otherwise, it's going to be just that until it's no longer just that, till it's gone. So then it's like, all right, we got to do the next step, and you kind of, I don't want to say you're gambling, but you kind of, it feels like you're kind of gambling.
Yeah. Well,
And then, of course, when you voice that stress, a lot of people's concern, especially family and friends, the response is to go do something else.
Yeah.
And
give up
that's
before
not-
it gave it a
Yeah,
chance.
Yeah, that's not my
Yeah.
problem. I mean, you wouldn't go, I'm really having a hard time with this calculus, and, you know, so you go to a tutoring lab or department or whatever, and you know, and they go, well, it's probably best that you just, you know, find something else. No, they don't do that.
I agree.
But we do that all the time in business, but that's because 99% of us are used to that structure that we created just, you know, a couple hundred years ago, and going outside that box is incredibly uncomfortable and sometimes dangerous, right? Like, you could end up with nothing at the end of the day, and that is dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, that's tough.
You're lucky sometimes if all you do is close the doors.
Yeah, usually I don't think you do though.
Yeah.
Unless you're really small.
Well, by your own admission, having a brick and mortar is your end deal, and there's more risk and there's more money that's needed.
Mhm.
Is that truly? I mean, I'm just telling you from my experience. I've installed dishwashers into a restaurant, and you know, on a leasing program. It's supposed to be for a year or two. I go and I service them every month, and in 3 months, 4 months, I'm taking the dishwasher back because they spent too much money, rent, labor, and all that. You really got to know what the hell you're doing when you go brick and mortar. I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, as we see it, with the catapult opportunity, is to, instead of going from not brick and mortar to brick and mortar, there's a bit of a transition there.
It helps.
That helps. So the hiring people, for instance, you have some forgiveness there versus if you were in the brick and mortar, you really don't. And what I mean by that is, you know, so some of our colleagues that we kitchen with have jumped in to help us whenever we're, you know, hosed, as far as we don't have.
In the weeds.
In the weeds.
Yeah.
We're in the weeds.
That's a fan. I love that. Like I was a server one year. I'm in the weeds.
Yeah.
And you know, there's lots of weeds. But you know, because you can't necessarily hire somebody and all you need is 7 hours of labor from them throughout the week or something, right? Those little. So the other side is that you hire somebody and they're only used for 7-8 hours a week, but you're paying them for 30 hours or whatever,
Yeah.
right, to make it so that it's worthwhile to even show up. So in that sense, like that's an example where you can't usually, if you're a restaurant and go to the neighboring restaurant, be like, hey, can I borrow your grill cook for an hour? It doesn't really.
So that leads into the question: what brought you guys to Lakeland?
Catapult.
Basically catapult, yeah. So we were looking at different kitchens to kitchen out of, and their name came up, and immediately we walked in the door and we met the former kitchen director, Maggie, and we saw the space, and she gave us a tour and everything.
And she was a real like go-getter, like one of those people that.
Well, she still is.
Well, yeah. She's not at Catapult any longer. She's over, how, a
Um,
pretty
she-
big project
She's moved to
now.
another thing
Yeah,
in
she's
Chicago,
moved.
but, yeah, just taking the
She's a good
tour and
problem solver.
seeing the cooler space and the kitchen space and everything that they have to offer, from mentor programs to everything basically. That's what got us to Lakeland basically, was them. And then we decided, well, since we're gonna be kitchen out of there, we should just try to, pop up in the surrounding areas in this area. And then when we started doing that, actually, honestly, we found out that this city and this area, there's a lot of good foodie people here
Yeah.
that we didn't realize that, we had a preconceived notion of what we thought our customers were gonna be, and they actually gave us a pleasant surprise of, no, we don't need any sauce. The good
Yeah.
barbecue should just have meat,
Yeah.
just be about meat. And I'm like, well, you guys from Texas? 'Cause
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
we're
it's,
used to.
Cause you're ordering like a Texan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we've got to the point where we have people come from all over just to get us.
I think
to
part of
our
it, people
food.
are tired of skirting around with diabetes all the time.
Yeah.
Like, sugar should be a seasoning, not an actual food group. And that sounds funny, but we actually did kind of teach that it was a food group for quite some time, the little food pyramid.
Of
You're
course.
supposed to eat all these grains and,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
and
put,
sugars, and you're like,
when it comes to food, we put very little sugar, like in sauce and like in our sauce, we on the sweetness scale, date and sugar is kind of similar, like for sweetness. So we'll make a date puree and we'll add that to it. We do add some sugar in the sauce, but it's not a lot. We don't believe in a lot of sugar in anything. I mean, we'll put a little bit of sugar in the coleslaw dressing just to balance it out from the acidity, because it's got acidity, or it's got acid and mustard in it. But for the most part, we don't buy and use a lot of sugar.
Do you guys have a style name for it?
I mean, it's kind of,
we named it Afterthought.
you're talking about the sauce?
Yeah,
Or just
well,
our style of
yeah,
cooking?
your style of cooking.
I mean, we call it Texas inspired because we're both from Texas and we wanna stay to that ideology where
We just want it to
smoke the
we
meat.
just want meat to taste good.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Ultimately, and the technique
like
is
And
already
come back
been-
again.
The
Yeah.
technique has already been figured out. It's the modern day where people are trying to add
Yeah, we don't.
solutions to problems that they don't want to exist, like, well, I don't wanna babysit the fire like that, so I'll use gas to, and, manage the temperature with some gas, and we'll also put wood in there for the smoke, but you still got gas, and, well, it's a shortcut. Makes it easier, but
There's been several
it
times
changes,
we'll be in service and the fire will be out and we're like, oh crap,
yeah.
we gotta go start the fire again. Cause we'll get busy and we can't go watch the fire, but
I remember it. I tried it. Okay, I got a grill at home. I got a smoker.
You mean try it recently, like
No,
after?
it's been a couple years,
Mm.
and I know what I'm doing. I can do this. And we bought this big old. I tried to smoke it by the temperature of the wood. I know. I've since realized that the most important thing is keeping that temperature the same
Yeah,
for the
it's
long time. Well,
consistent, yeah.
you can't. I couldn't do
It's
that.
hard, yeah.
And I just threw it out. I had no idea what I was doing.
There's
I
a lot
learned
of
the hard
factors
way.
involved in that too, like, if the wind is really high,
If the wind is shifting a lot.
yeah, cause we cook on a reverse flow, and we got it from some guys down in Georgia who were amazing, and it's one of the best cookers or smokers I've ever cooked on. But it's reverse flow, so it comes, firebox on this side, it comes in and it comes back up and goes out. But if it's windy that day, it can actually push it back through, and you're fighting the fire all day long, and you're only
Yeah,
getting
it's
to a
like-
certain point.
It's like the
Or if it
smoke
rains,
shifting
the-
back and forth inside there, and
Yeah, if it rains, the smoker cools down, and your heat in turn and cools down, and so it's.
Yeah, it's an art that
Yeah.
has to be learned.
Yeah, it's,
I mean,
depends on the weather and everything else, but if you're gonna not say you're not gonna take any shortcuts like we do, then that's one of the things that you have to go through. We sacrifice, or we don't sacrifice.
technology's useful when it's useful. And what I mean by that is, one of the things with processed food is, the reason why it's processed is because we want to be able to mass produce it and make it incredibly convenient for us. You know, so we don't want, and we don't want to spend the money to kind of get the job done. What I mean by get the job done is like, you know, there's two different ways to look at eating. Eating can be an experience that's, you know, sensual, and actually what I mean by sensual, like the senses, like taste and smell and all that, or completely utilitarian, like I'm hungry, I need nourishment, let's get this done and move on. The latter is kind of a shame if you think about it. You know, you only have one life to live. Why do that? But you have to, in real life, you have to sometime make those trade-offs. But the problem with that process part is in order to do this, then the way we process it maybe changes the color of it. So then we have to do something, we have to add an artificial color to it or whatever.
Variables.
And it gets
constant variables.
And each one of these things, I mean, you know, red dye, number whatever, doesn't taste good. You know, it's not like, oh man, this is great, I love this taste, it really amplifies the flavor. It's not like that. So you just keep adding those little things, and after a while, after, you know, I guess in our environment, after decades, you have this product that you've kind of just learned to like, tolerate, or whatever, and almost forget what food can or should taste like. And so that's kind of, I think that's kind of where we, you know, went with that, is we were trying to bring real food. So again, that's kind of why the competitions don't work for us, because you inject stuff, there's tons of MSG, you spray things with soy oil like parquet, or I can't believe it's not butter, you know, to make it look like it's moist, and all these
there's all
things.
kinds of tricks and stuff. Like I said, we're not hating on that, because
It's just not
some of those
hard.
guys,
Everybody's different. That's what makes the
Yeah,
world go
yeah.
round.
Some of those-
Unique. Your way.
yeah, some of those guys, because one of the biggest ones that have won a lot of competitions and do that stuff is called the Shed Barbecue. They're out of Mississippi, and they're really good at competition. They've won a couple of Memphis and May things, but I've actually been to their restaurant a couple of times, and I make it a point, because they're right on the way when we go back to Texas, I make it a point to actually stop there because their barbecue is so good. So it's, you know, they can do all that stuff in the competition, but in the restaurant world, you know, they just cook regular normal barbecue, but they know what they're doing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But you can appreciate other people's work
You
as
have
well.
to realize
Yeah.
that it's different. You just have to, it's just not the
Oh
same.
yeah, we like time them, talk to my wife and we go back, okay, well, what time are we gonna be there in Mississippi, so we can, we have, because it's right off I-10, we have to stop at the Shed, like their stuff's really good, plus the atmosphere is really great, but.
I think that elevated barbecue, and when I say that, I also mean, you know, using the old techniques. I think that's becoming cool again, or something. You know, kind of like how microbreweries.
That's
the
right.
last couple of
I
decades
agree.
were like, they were just kind of a thing, and that's kind of plateaued out now.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've got some brewers that are talking about shutting their doors, you know, as rent's going up, and the market is definitely saturated with craft beer. Think about it, 20 years ago, it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah.
You know, we would think that Fat Tire was like, whoa, you know, and now it's kind of just taken for granted. There's so many beer options out there, and especially in places like this where there's a lot of good local beer, which is one of the things we try to focus on, is using actual local stuff, you know, grown by actual local people or made by local people. You know, we don't make our desserts, we use a local baker. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the way I found you guys is walking down Saturday morning farmer's market, seeing you guys smell, first of all, you smell it from half a block away, it's like, who is that? And you just walk until you think you know, and then you come up on you, and then I'm uneducated in the barbecue, but I love it. And you took the time to explain to me what you just said, the way you guys make it, the way you guys do it, compared to other people. You took the time out, and I appreciate that. And I was like, man, I want to interview these guys. These guys know what they're doing.
Well, we also want to make an experience that you can't easily replicate. And I say easily replicate, everything that we do can be done by somebody else at some point, you know. But the question is, it's just like beer. If you're a home brewer chances are you actually go to microbreweries more than the average person, not less.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're barbecuing at home, chances are you're probably one of those people that actually goes out to get barbecue more often than those that don't.
Yeah.
So we kind of look at it as, I don't know, sometimes he calls it a community, and it is, but I kind of think it's also kind of a movement, you know, where people are going back to it. It's like we spent so much time trying to get as much stuff accomplished in an hour's worth of time, so we make those shortcuts. And now giving the public a path to get that kind of food without having to go through those steps, that's what we're trying to do. Don't sit down at our table and go, oh yeah, I could have done this easier at home, and thought like, man, don't do that. Like, that's your money. Why? Why let it go? Why let go? Why part with it like that?
I agree, yeah. The common denominator that I see that you're speaking of is people are starting to take the entrepreneurship for themselves. Since COVID, and before that, the common denominator is they're leaving the corporate world. They're leaving the big company, and everybody's starting to team up with the small.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Let's get back to
That was one of the
individual
good things
brains.
One of the good things that came out of COVID, I think, back to what he was saying about the community, like I like to call our community and our followers. So anytime you see like me post like hashtag Cultivated Nation on any of our posts on social media, that's what I'm calling our community. I just came up with the name because he said something like they do that same thing in the UF, they call it, what do they call it?
Oh, Gator Nation.
Gator Nation, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was like, well, we're the Cultivated Nation.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's part of our
Grab your own hashtag.
Yeah, we have a lot of loyal followers from all over the country. Being on the East Coast in Florida, we have a lot of people from like upstate New York or in New York, or we have one guy who follows us, and he's from the Vermont area, and he really likes our brisket. He comes by and gets our smoked pastrami. So we make our smoked pastrami, and it's only available on Thursdays because it's over a 2-week process to make.
Wow.
So we brine it for 2 weeks. We put our rub on it for 48 hours, and then we smoke it. And something about the curing slows down the cooking process. So those things we've had some finish in like 18, 19 hours. And it's not like, usually when you're doing brisket, it's like 1 hour per pound. So I don't like to smoke big briskets. I like to find the smaller ones just because it takes so long, and we don't sacrifice. We sacrifice sleep, not quality, but
and personal life.
yeah, that too. But so I try to find the smaller ones, but like the pastramis their average is like 15, 16 hours. Wow. So it's a long process. So we only have it available on Thursdays, and we also do a Reuben with that, where we make everything but the bread and cheese. We make our own sauerkraut. We make, instead of Thousand Island dressing, we call it Lonely Island dressing. We make our own dressing. We use our barbecue sauce in the dressing. But yeah, we have a lot of people that have actually posted Google reviews saying that it's better than some delis in New York. They miss that because they're down here now. So we've created a following just off our pastrami.
What I found shocking, and this is just because I'm observant as a consumer, all right? I walked up to your booth, and it said you can buy a pound of the meat, cooked your way, prepared, ready to go, for $16 a pound. I go to Publix for filet, and it's $30 a pound.
Oh, that's it.
I could not believe you only wanted $16. I was like, I'll pay you what I pay for filet. The filet at Publix.
What meat was the $16?
The lean that you gave me, it was just 2 days ago.
Pound. Yeah, right.
I think you said it was $69.99 a pound, didn't you?
No, it's 32.
I was gonna say, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I saw
Yeah.
16.
Well, the brisket is a little
half
more
pound.
because it's prime, like it's USDA prime, so the price fluctuates since it's higher.
So it is up there. Oh, okay.
It is up there, but you don't
That
have
was
to
my
buy the
mistake.
full
We're
pound.
actually not.
We're actually
Not
lower
most
than some.
expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
actually
A lot
lower
of
than some
places
people
too,
around.
and we probably should adopt this just to remove the visceral effect that some people have. But there were a lot of people, they'll have prices for a quarter pound or buy certain number of ounces, right? Like, the biltong bar in Atlanta they don't sell their biltong. I mean, they sell it by the pound, i.e. they sell it by weight, but they price it at like 3 ounces. So if you're buying a pound, you're really, multiplying
Yeah,
that.
that's just a
3
gimmick.
ounces, right? So the actual price of it is, over $50 a pound when you
Yeah,
actually add that
I said,
up.
these guys are producing this good of meat at $16 a pound. I could resell that. I don't think I could resell it,
You could.
so I was wrong.
Yeah, you definitely could. But yeah, a lot of people, when you do the math, a lot of times we're actually cheaper.
Okay, it was
But
well
think-
worth it though.
But people think the other way
Yeah.
because of and it makes sense. People don't usually want to do some trigonometry while they're trying to get
Yeah.
food, but
Yeah, some of our people have told us that we need to charge more
yeah,
for a pound. I'm like, that's
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say $16 a pound. It's worth more than that.
yeah.
I'd pay that. So if you guys were able to open up a brick and mortar, where would you open it up?
In Lakeland.
And like,
Oh, you would?
We,
Yeah.
we really love the feel and the vibe of the downtown area.
We also
It's got
think
really
it's-
good energy. So.
We also think there's if we can get, and when I say we, I mean community wise, if we can get on the same page, downtown Lakeland, I think will become a foodie destination. And it's kind of like if you're familiar with Dallas Fort Worth, the Dallas Cowboys aren't in Dallas, they're in Arlington, and Lakeland's in between Orlando.
Oh, it's
slash
like there's
Disney.
9 million people between
And-
here and Tampa and Orlando.
Yeah. So-
9 million.
And then
It's growing. Growing.
the actual community in Lakeland is very pro entrepreneur.
Yeah,
They're pro.
we found that out. It's,
They're not
it's a
like
very-
anarchists when it comes to everything should be complete,
Yeah.
unchecked, laissez-faire. But they also aren't obsessed with bureaucracy and red tape and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Things can actually get done, and
Lakeland-
people like it.
Is it that way in Texas as well?
It depends on where you're at.
Certain areas, yeah. But Lakeland as a whole, like, has a very good entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, that's probably why Catapult exists
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
that.
I
so.
agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of miraculous. It's I don't know, there's only so much you can do intentionally by design, and then the other stuff just kind of happens, it's just opportunistic. So you're lucky whenever you have this entity or this environment that has all the different pieces to make that effort more likely to be successful, like startup efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a smaller town, so.
Well,
It's
where
kinda
can people
full
find you guys at? Is it Cultivated Pig?
Yeah, so right now we're currently, we're piloting the restaurant residency program out of Catapult. So they have a kitchen, a pop-up window, basically. So if you're looking at the building, it's at 502 East Main, across from Lake Mirror. If you're looking right at the building, we're on the right side of the building. You can use the parking for Catapult. I know it says it has permitted only, but
In and out.
We're getting signs. It
Yeah.
also
And this
shows
is
it.
daily? This is every day?
we're open Wednesday through Saturday.
Okay.
And Wednesday through Thursday, we're open 11 to 9. And then Wednesdays, we have Dollar Wing Wednesdays from 6 to 9. And we have happy hour every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 4 to 7. And then Fridays and Saturdays, we do live music from 7 to 10.
And the whole public's invited?
Whole public's invited, yeah. It's everybody.
Unless you're a jerk,
Yeah.
please don't come out.
Yeah. And
Well,
then
we
you guys
have a
have a
list of
website?
places that we can suggest you go to, but.
You guys have a website or the handle on social media?
Yeah, so website is www.thecultivatedpig.com, and then pretty much all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is The Cultivated Pig. We have a YouTube channel. It's all the same, Cultivated Pig.
Well, fantastic, gentlemen. Anything else you want to add? I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. God bless you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.